Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Remember, if you love film, gaming, or television content, please consider clicking that subscribe button because today I'll be covering the third film I saw at this year's Brisbane International Film Festival, the Queensland premiere of Final Cut. So, let's get into it. If you did not know, Final Cut is another film from director Marcel who is best known for directing the Best Picture winning The Artist, which was a tribute to black and white silent era films. This is the first film of his that I've seen since The Artist, and they could not be more different. I also know that this is a remake of a film titled One Cut of the Dead, which was made in Japan, and Final Cut does cleverly reference that it is a remake. I have not seen the original, so just know that this review is from the perspective of someone who has only seen Final Cut. It was the opening to this year's Cannes International Film Festival, and after seeing the film, I kind of understand why. It's light, enjoyable, and showcases the passion behind making films. I'm someone who really likes movies about movies being made, so as a film that explores this concept, I was really hooked in the way that the film was told. I have to say, I really enjoyed this from start to finish, and I genuinely think that this may be the funniest film of the year so far. Final Cut opens with a 30-minute long take that feels like a purposeful B-grade film, and then we go into the story on how this film was made from pre-production to the mainline production, and it showcases some very clever satire on the way. The initial perception that you have of all the characters completely change over the course of the film in a good way, as you get a lot more context behind what was happening previously, and it makes the whole thing feel all the more humorous. This covers many different types of people on a film set, from the uninspired director to the prestigious actor who is so pretentious and just keeps going on about his time working with Lars von Trier, to the person who does the score, who is just trying to capture the right music that this film would gravitate towards. The person who does the score is straight up the funniest person in the film. Every time he appears, I was laughing. The way that his lines were delivered were just perfect in that way.
You're a funny guy.
I also have to really appreciate that while this is a straight up comedy, there are some moments that are real poignant and heartfelt that I think make the characters a lot more interesting and keeps the story running nicely. I know most comedies decide to be funny and then it tries to forcibly have a heartfelt message, and they usually fall apart in the third act because it completely changes the momentum of the film. In this, it just sprinkles enough of that heartfelt element to really make some nice sweet moments mixed with the comedy, and I love that to this film. I won't go too much into the third act for spoilers' sake, but I will say that it ties everything together so nicely. Weird little inconsistencies or major flaws that you may have seen in the beginning that give this a B-grade level film feel get explained in the funniest way possible, and it just ties everything together so nicely that really delivers on the satire that the film is trying to tell. There are also moments that are fourth wall breaking. It's done quite subtly, and I feel like there were a few of these jokes that I missed because it references the original film every now and then, and as I haven't seen the original film, some of those jokes have gone over my head. I think that's perfectly fine because people who have seen the original film will get something out of this, and for me it just adds to the rewatchability of it, so I'm kind of fine with it. That's something I think is really worth mentioning as well, is just out of all of the films that I've seen at BIFF 2022 so far, this is easily the most rewatchable because I believe the comedy was so sharp and enjoyable that I could watch this film 10 more times and still think it's pretty funny. I also believe even as a film that is spoken entirely in French, don't let that turn you away from this. If international films aren't really your thing, I think this is a really great introduction because it is so accessible and lighthearted that it's really a good way to enter the realm of international films. Now, in terms of negatives, I do hear that this is a shot-for-shot remake of the original in a lot of ways. I cannot confirm if that's true because I have not seen the original, as I mentioned before, but this is kind of disappointing that a whole lot of this isn't all that original, if that's true. I also thought that there were one or two details that got missed in terms of the way it explains the first act, and I would have liked to have seen those as well. I wouldn't have minded if this was maybe 10 minutes longer so that we could have got that. When the first act ends, I also think technically it does lose a lot of creativity and goes more into being a pretty standard film technically, and it would have been nice to see more flashiness in the editing and cinematography. These are honestly little nitpicks here and there to me because coming out of the theater, I had a blast and don't really have too many complaints, to be honest. Overall, Final Cut is a very clever satire that really worked in my opinion. I cannot believe it, but BIFF 2022 is turning out to be more stacked compared to BIFF 2021, which is nuts to me because I thought last year was a really good festival. I'm already tired as hell seeing all of these films, but I'm having so much fun, and films like these are always so nice to see at the festival. I'm going to give Final Cut a 4.5 out of 5. I don't have too many complaints, and if you get the chance to see it, definitely give it a watch because it's a really good time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen Final Cut and what you think about it. Also, I'd like to know what you think of One Cut of the Dead if you've seen that as well. Next up on the festival slate, I'll be seeing the Palme d'Or winning Triangle of Sadness in a few days' time, so look forward to that video coming soon. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.